Hey guys, Mindstone here, and today we will be looking at a quite curious version of a shaman deck, previously known as Concede or Wall Shaman. But the thing about that deck was that deck was a control deck. It was playing very slowly, where this deck is actually a mid-range deck. So, um, before we talk about the cards, I'm just going to tell a little bit about the deck in general, because it's quite weird. The deck has a section of cards, a suite, playing for aggression and sort of establishing board presence very firmly. And that part of the deck is only for doing that. It's not for anything else. Um, then establishing the board. After that, we've got another section which is holding the board and pressuring onwards from there. That's where we have all our big dudes in. So there's like several sections of the deck. These are the two primary sections, and there's a little third section meant to, after we've gone through section 2, we'll be using the third section to snowball the game. So yeah, I'll just add some of the cards that are important to each section. um, I'll mention them when we go through them, but without further ado, let's go into the cards. So the first card we're playing is Bloodsill Corsair. So this guy is good for he's good in the early game, obviously, and he's good at weapons. That's what we want to use him for. So we're going to play him on turn 1 as 1/2, and he's going to be a pirate, which is going to make patches go out of our deck, which is very, very important. Actually, we're playing him mainly because he's a 1/2 plus a 1/1 with charge for 1 mana most of the time. So it's really just to stabilize in the early game, and he's good against weapons too. So if you know you're up against a weapon class or something like, well, somebody using Medivh, you can keep this guy for just dealing with that. So yeah, he's just pretty good for early game. Nothing else really. It's not too fancy. They've got fireflies. Oh, I just have to mention that the Bloodsill Corsair is actually in the aggression suite. Um, So then we've got Fireflies. These are aggressive too. They're for the same purpose as Bloodsill Corsair, simply just filling the board in the early game and being aggressive. So not much to say about it. It's the good thing about Firefly is that it can be used very with a lot of versatility, because you can play it on turn 1 as 1/2, or you can play it on turn 2 as 2 1/2s, or you can use it later to just fill in the curve, because it can cost either 1 or 2 depending on how many bodies you want to play. So that matters quite a lot. But yeah, it's just for early game. Nothing special about it. They've got patches, which is actually the reason we're running these pirates. Because patches, we don't ever want to have patches in our hand. We always want to just pull him with one of the Corsairs. So yeah, he's just like a free 1/1 with charge most of the time. Not much to say about it. It's just strong for trading and going phase and whatever. Usually we won't use him to actually deal a lot of damage. We'll just use him to establish board presence. But yeah, don't ever mulligan for him. Any other 1-drop should be mulligan for, but not this guy. He should go away every time you possibly can. Well, the next card, Ancestral Spirit. This card is actually part of the third suite. It's sort of meant to be when we have big dudes on the board, we can revive these big dudes with this card. So just to keep them on the board, to keep them pushing damage and keep them trading. The card's just super strong because it's 2 mana, summon a big dude, usually, if we have a big dude sticking on the board. And we will usually have that in this deck, so fairly strong card, and it's sort of the legacy from Concede Shaman, playing this guy on big taunts. Yeah, but not much to say to it, it's a fairly strong card. We've got Blood Mage Thanos. This is for spell damage and for cycle. We don't have that much card draw in the deck. It's not like, we have some, but it's not nothing amazing. Thanos helps a little bit with that, and he helps us that our Maelstrom portals and such go hit for a little bit more. So nothing special about him either. He's not actually part of any of the suites. He's just like helping the deck. Then we've got Flame Tongue Totem, which is also one of the aggressive cards. This one is really, really strong conjuration with a lot of 1-drops, and or totem hero power for just pushing in a lot of damage. What you're going to do is you're going to place this minion in the middle of your minions, and you're just going to trade them in at this aside, so you stop trading these adjacent to it, because then the others will slide into it and get the buff too. So you can actually make your entire board have 2 extra attack if you just trade everything in. So you got to consider that. So it's a lot about positioning, and usually the rule is that you'll place things to the left of the totem, because on the right, your totems are always going to be, because your hero power, you cannot choose where to put it. So it'll just be at the right of the totem. So you want to try to have more minions on the left, usually your big minions on the left. But, well, yeah, it's just how you place your minions. It's not terribly important. Then we've got 2 Maelstrom portals. These are for dealing with aggression, and we get a little 1-drop out of it. That's like just an added bonus, kind of. It's what makes the portal really good, right? But it's still just for dealing with aggression. We're going to use it for dealing with all the token decks, if there are any. Aggressive Druid is like somewhere out there, I guess. And I've seen Pirate Warrior and that kind of thing too, which is, well, it can be needed to have Maelstrom portal against these. So we're definitely playing 2 of them. It's just a fairly strong card, and the 1-drop rolls will help us to be aggressive. Then we've got Drakari Defender, which is a new card. This guy is pretty interesting, because he overloads for as much as he costs, which is going to mean that if you play this guy on turn 3 or 2, you're almost not going to have a turn the next turn. So he kind of has to make up for 2 turns of not doing anything. That can be very, very hard sometimes if you're behind. This guy's not good in the late game, which is also the reason we're not playing more than one of them. But if we're up against aggro, we can just jam this guy down, and they have a huge body to go through. So the reason I think it's better than Tar Creeper is probably that it has a larger body, right? And 2 attack is usually just enough. Yeah, so I think Drakari Defenders is a strong card. I would consider playing 2 of them, but I'm not that happy about it either, because we don't want to play it later, as I said. So a single copy just to stop aggression, and it's really, really good if you combine it with Flame Tongue Totem too. It becomes a really big body, able to kill a lot of things that way. Yeah, but watch out for the overload. That's, I think, all I gotta say to it. If you don't like it, I think you could swap it, but you should probably have something else for stabilizing in the mid game, like Talk Reaper. Well, but then we've got double Lightning Storm. Again, just like Maelstrom Portal, this is for board clear. It's nothing too fancy, it's just to destroy aggressive decks, and it does that quite well. Also, this one actually hits Jade Druid fairly hard, because they can, during the mid game, have some boards that are quite susceptible to Lightning Storm, so therefore, we like these quite a lot. Yeah, nothing to say about it. Try to get spell damage to ensure consistent rolls. Yeah. We've got Manatite Totems, which are our primary card draw source. It's not like they will give us a lot of card draw. Usually we're going to be happy if they give us 1 or 2 cards. And there's a golden rule of Manatite Totem. You do never play 2 of them at once. You will always hold the second one till the first one's dead. If you play 2 of them, you will overdraw occasionally. You simply cannot consistently put 2 things each turn. That's too much. Also, if you're up against a control deck, they're just going to use it again. You not clear them, which means you draw to fatigue very, very fast, and you lose. So never play 2 of these. That's going to make sure the enemy deck is going to fear them and make sure to kill them, but it's not going to make sure that they'll just, well, they won't leave them there and use them against you. So play 1 at a time, but it's important to protect this one too, because it's very important for you that you have more cards. It's often what allows you to win. That's simply just having more cards than your opponent because of this card staying on the board. Yeah. But then we've got Stonehold Defender, which is just a little taunt. Nothing special about it. However, the really good thing about it is that, well, it's not a terribly good card, right? It is in some ways, but it's not a big body when we play it. 1/4 is not impressive. But it combines fairly well with Flame Tongue Totem, becomes a quite big nuisance with that. And it also has the chance to discover quite a few good things. We can get Lich Kings out of it, we can get things from below, we can get Earth Elementals, there's Alkir even. There's a lot of good taunt in Shaman actually that we want to have, something like White Eyes too. So therefore I feel like he's pretty good. And he helps against aggression a little bit. Not terribly much, but it's fairly nice. Yeah. But he is kind of not in the suite either. Yeah, none of the cards that I really just mentioned are in the suite. They're like just there to fill out the deck to make it run smoothly. Then we've got Flame Wreath Faceless, which is a part of the second suite, probably the core card almost. Because this guy, if you play on number 4, it's a huge threat to our opponent. Um, and it's just the 7/7 body can kill a lot of things because you can trade with it, and it can do a serious amount of damage to the face. Now that Druid started playing Big Game Hunter, that's happened recently. It means that this card is no longer as good, but it's still very, very strong, and definitely going to help you in these matchups. Because Druids have a hard time having heart removal because they don't have anything except for Big Game Hunter, not really. So it helps you into Druid, and a lot of other matchups like Exodia Mage and such, you're just going to place this guy and start going face with him, and he's very, very threatening that way because it only takes him 4 turns to almost kill people, which is not a lot actually. Yeah, but definitely a strong card there. Then we've got Corpse Racer, which is another new card. This guy is very interesting in the deck because he is actually Ancestral Spirit, and well, he's just more Ancestral Spirits. And because we like Ancestral Spirits very, very much, we sort of like this guy too. He's not all that good because he's harder to combine with big minions than Ancestral Spirit is because he costs more, but he's still very, very strong just because of the sheer power of the Death Rattle he gives one of the minions. Also, the 3/3 body is fine, it's not terrible, but you honestly don't play him for that. It's not that good. I think the smallest thing you want to revive is maybe Drakari Defender. I don't think you'll play him for anything less than that. It doesn't feel good, really. Well, then we've got Earth Elemental, which is like another one of the centerpieces of Suite number 2. Corpse Racer was in Suite number 3, for that matter. But Earth Elementals are really important against aggro decks because they stop a lot of attacks with those 8 health they've got, and they can come out fairly early, actually, on turn 5. But another thing is that against controlling decks, they're also really important because you put them and they actually do 7 damage, like the Flame Wreath Faceless. So they're sort of Flame Wreath Faceless with Taunt, which is like what they do, and that is quite powerful. And this is probably the main target for Ancestral Spirit. It should be mentioned. Yeah, even though their overload is quite intense, so you should watch out with that. I have to mention. Then we've got Things Below. This is just a stable of Shaman, really, because they've got the hero power, which is going to discount it for 1 every time you use it, and you've got Flame Tongues, and you've got Mana Type Totems, which is just enough to make it consistently cost, well, a little. Usually you can play it for 2 or 3, or maybe even 0, so, and that's just good, getting a 5/5 for that. Yeah, so definitely a powerful card. Then we are playing the Lich King. I'm actually in doubt about this card because I think he's a little bit slow for the deck. He's hard to do big combinations with, and when you overload a lot, because you have a lot of cards with overload, he's a little bit hard to get down sometimes. However, I have decided that just because of the chance that you can get some really important cards from him, I think he's worth it. He's also really good. Just getting him down there, he's going to just win the game on his own if he's not dealt with. But getting the card Army of the Dead from him is probably the most high rolly thing I've seen in a long time. Because if you get that, you've got a good chance of pulling at least 2 big dudes out of your deck because there are so many of them. I think I've seen 4 at a point, just 4 7/7s or something close to that. So that was pretty intense, and the game was over very quickly. But yeah, he's definitely very powerful. You gotta protect the Lich King if you can, but he's also a very good target for Ancestral Spirit if you can make that happen on turn 10. Just watch out for Black Knights. Yeah. Then we've got Snowfury Giants, which is really the reason we're running so much Overload. Because these dudes are big and they are cheap to play. It's actually quite amazing how quickly they're discounted. I found that I wasn't playing them in quite a long time actually, because I thought they were very expensive, but it's sort of it's like you don't play them before, let's say, close to the end game, but when you play them for free and you play something on them, like, let's say, Ancestral Spirit. So that can be very dangerous, but I think they've got a weakness, though, which is that they don't have Taunt. That means it's very, very hard to, like, put them to their good use, because they are value engines, but if you're threatened, they're not really going to be fast enough, which is the problem. However, running all this overload, I think they can become cheap enough to just be played like that. You should note that cards like Drakari Defender will reduce their cost as much as the cards themselves cost, which means that you can play Darkari Defender and Snow Fury Giant if you could play Snow Fury Giant anyways, which is a quite important thing to remember. Yeah. But I think the card is very powerful because it's just an 8/8 that you can often squeeze down for less than 6, which is just powerful in general. Yeah, but that was the deck. So now I hope you guys have a little grasp of how the deck works. It is essentially sort of an aggressive mid-range deck, but it can be very defensive too. Well, it's sort of how you play it and what you face, because, well, that's how mid-range works. So I hope that gives some understanding of it, and now I think we will go into an example game. Okay, so here we are going into an example game with a shaman. So we are primarily looking for anything that doesn't go absolutely crazy upon the start of the game, but we'll see what happens. Rogue is usually a fairly good matchup, except for if they have Sap, that will be quite problematic. We'll hold Maelstrom Portal here, because Rogue often plays Swashbuckle on one and pulls out patches with it, which is something a Maelstrom Portal deals nicely with. We'll also hold the Flame Tongue Totems, because they're sort of aggressive cards that we want to use aggressively. Sadly, we didn't have any other 1-drops. We didn't have any 1-drops, so we can't really do all that much aggressive stuff. That means we'll be going for the alternate route, almost skipping the first section of the deck, and instead trying to reach the second section as fast as possible. So now we don't want him getting anything out of the Shaku, so we'll just use both Maelstrom Portals and be happy with that. We can use some combination of Flame Tongue Totem and Hero Power next turn, which is going to quickly make our thing from below drop in cost, which can make it a very good tool in the near future. That is quite sad, but luckily we had something like Vilespine Slayer, which is very powerful for this deck to work with. I don't want to go for the Flame Tongue Totem here, I think that's a little bit too aggressive. And if we need to trade into something, we can just do it next turn. He's not very likely to clear this board, because he sort of has to develop something. He can, obviously, but we will see what he does.
In death, I exact my revenge.
Okay, so he went for the Lillian Voss. And we actually are not told anything about which cards were transformed. But we will have some of these new cards thrown at us. Luckily he will overload, which means he cannot do all that much. He can still do quite some though. I have to remember that he has shaman spells now, which means there is Hex and Devolve and such. There could be there. So yeah, we gotta kind of care about that. Now we saw Sap on this one. That's something we're very happy about, because sapping something like Earth Element would hurt us quite a lot. I believe we would want to be playing it like this. So we're getting some sort of board presence, and we still have an enabler for the Vilespine Slayer. And we also avoid playing this one yet, because I think we'll be facing bigger things later.
Something unusual.
However, now he has a hand of fairly cheap things, which is something we should definitely watch out for. That one not doing terribly much on its own. However, that matters quite severely. I believe that we can go for this fairly safely. It doesn't really feel like we're going to have anything that big thrown at us right now. seems like we're playing Thief Rogue, which is quite funny archetype. Because we're actually essentially playing against our own class. Looks like board clear will be relevant here. So we almost have a guaranteed clear here. Now we were quite unlucky and therefore unable to kill that mana type totem. But there's not much to do about it. We just have to keep going. It's a little bit sad he had to keep it, because it actually helps him refill his hand. But now we will... oh, we might not be able to clear it. Obvious backstab. Damned. That's causing us quite a headache, I'd say. We'll have the Earth Elemental down and hope that will help us. If we are a little bit fortunate, we can actually put Corp Race onto it next turn, which should make for a fairly strong minion. But if nothing else, Snow Fury Giant is actually playable now.
Ha, this guy's toast.
We had two of those. Obviously a violent player. Another Lightning Storm wouldn't hurt terribly much here either. It would actually be quite fortunate to draw it. This one's very much causing us problems. So we will simply just remove his board and see what we can do next turn. We only have 8 mana, so we can't quite pull off this combo. But maybe we can top deck something that we can work with. That's a start, I guess.
This guy's toast.
Seems like he's got a lot of smaller minions right now, which is going to be easily repelled by our larger ones. So I think here we have to go for play allowing us to drop out 2 big dudes at once. Most likely we'll be able to use Corpse Racer on one of them next turn, which is going to be very important. That one doesn't matter terribly much, luckily. However, if his raid does pack a little bit more punch. Still, there is no hard removal, so most likely he cannot remove the second one.
This guy's toast.
So we will actually be the controller here, because we've got a little bit more cards. And if we just stop him from doing damage to us, we should just win this without much trouble. So therefore I'm playing a little bit defensively, even though we could actually phase race him here. I just don't think that would be advantageous. So he thinks he wants to be phase raced. He's asking to be. Oh, never mind. Yes. So the situation was almost inevitable, anyways. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck and saw how it worked. Even though this was a little bit of an oddball game. But yeah. And I will see you in my next video, as I say.